Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
you
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said,
stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about West?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
Сьогодні були доповіді нашої урядової команди по економічному партнерству зі Сполученими Штатами Америки. Угода є підписана, буде направлена на ратифікацію у Верховну Раду України.
समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉपअप करा ले. दिस इज द राइट टाइम.
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया.
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले. दिस इज द राइट टाइम.
अब समझा.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
So in a stunning development on the Russia-Ukraine front, last night, the minerals deal was finally signed between Ukraine and United States of America. This is of immense significance because if you remember, in February at the Oval Office, there was a massive showdown between President Zelensky and President Donald Trump, and many had dismissed the minerals deal from ever reaching any conclusion. But now the table seems to have turned. And to discuss that on the WorldView with Swasti, today I'm joined by two distinguished guests. I'm joined by Mr. Taras Kachka, who is the Deputy Minister for Economy in Ukraine, but he's also the Ukrainian trade representative. And I'm sure he has played a key role in getting this deal through. I'm very happy to have you here, Mr. Kachka, and thank you for joining us live from Washington, D.C. Then I have the Ukrainian MP, Mr. Vadym Halaychuk. He is known for his comments and his work on the Ukraine war. He's also the International Secretary of the Servants of the People's Party. And for those of you who do not know Ukrainian politics, this is the party that President Zelensky belongs to. He is also the member of Ukraine-India Friendship Group at the Rada, which is the Ukrainian parliament. So I'm very pleased to be joined by both of you. And Mr. Vadym, thank you for joining us from Kyiv. So let me now start the discussion, and I come to you directly, Mr. Kachka. First of all, what a moment this has been, right? Just as everybody was thinking that the minerals deal is off the table, we got news here that it was indeed signed last night. But it has a complex history, isn't it? Last attempt at signing it was quite dramatically unsuccessful. What really has changed, and how did you arrive at that change?
It was very, very complex work and technical work for last all the days. So started from February 12th when it was initially presented. The idea was really unique, and I think that it's very short time, very, very fast that we did it. We really last month spent, I think, that like 24/7 working on this document, and it actually now fall into the, let's say, classic of international law and also some classics in corporate law and financial law, and it is balanced. Yeah, so that's why I think that we went for very tough discussions and but never gave up, because the idea is really mutually benefit for us. We really believe that the support, that friends indeed is friend indeed. Yes, so it's like very, very very old phrase, and this is really a good one. So that we really want to develop our economy together with the United States, and we actually now see that how it is embedded in the document, and it resonates with the interest of President Trump, of President Zelensky, of US people and Ukrainian people. So yeah, it took time, so a lot of tough discussions, but we are there. And you know that usually, like in international trade, usually if you have more trade, you have more problems daily on daily basis. So that's why all tough discussions that happens between Ukraine and the US, it's just like local things between strategic partners. So that's why we maintain our work on many levels, including on this one. And I really appreciate how from, let's say, tough discussions, we got to the brilliant idea to have this fund, and this is really new word for government to government relations. Thank you.
Right. I mean, that was a rather optimistic tone that I could see in your response. But before I come back to you for more details on the deal per se, because of course, we know that the previous deal, which was to be signed at the White House, was touted as being an unfair deal for Ukraine, and this one is relatively more fair. So I am going to come to you and ask you about that change. But before that, Mr. Halaychuk, can you help me understand how this also shifts the narrative a little bit? Because I'm sure you are no stranger to India. I mean, from India's perspective, from the perspective of countries of this region that have, tried to take a neutral stand in the war, it almost came to the extent of looking as if the Trump administration has completely deserted Ukraine, and they were completely taking President Putin's viewpoint, at least in the first 100 days of office. So, do you see this also triggering a kind of a geopolitical shift in terms of how perceptions have been getting formed all over the world in relation to the first 100 days of Donald Trump in office?
Well, Swasti, first let me thank you for inviting me to the program, and in general for keeping focus on Ukraine and Ukrainian affairs here. Uh, the idea was presented by President Zelensky last year. I mean, the idea that Ukraine would want our partners, both the United States, the major partners, the United States, the European Union, of course, to actively participate in developing Ukrainian resources. With the Europeans, we as a candidate country for joining the EU, and we have the EU accession process going on. But with the US, we wanted to have this special partnership, and we made this proposal first. So for us, it was very important to uh, get the US to accept the offer, so to speak. Now, mind you, the issue was from the very beginning quite sensitive in terms of what it is. It's not your regular trade deal. It's not something you buy or sell, and you want to get a better price. This is a complicated country to country document which describes not just your trading relationships or economic cooperation. Ukraine made emphasis on security arrangements because it's a number one issue for us now and will remain for a foreseeable future. Just in December last year, we commemorated the 30th anniversary of the Budapest memorandums, which was a very sad reminder of lack of concrete proposals, which had very serious consequences, concrete proposals and concrete arrangements in the security field. So Ukraine having that sobering experience is, of course, very much focused on the issue of security and what might guarantee the securities. So from the very beginning, we were putting emphasis that it's not just economic and trade deal. It's also about security and about overall cooperation. Therefore, definitely happy with what we hear and see now. And bravo to our negotiating team, because we all remember that there were several different several different drafts that were going around. There was a lot of discussion on which draft has uh, more opportunities and who is benefiting more and so on and so forth. But I believe now, from what we see, this one is quite balanced. This one is definitely beneficial for both. This one is centered around long-term cooperation and these mutual 50 um, 50 division of of profits, and also the security arrangements and these very specific issues such as weaponry and especially those weapons that would protect Ukrainian skies are specifically mentioned in this agreement. Therefore, I believe that we have reached that major goal. We have successfully tied up economy, trade, and security.
No, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that because, frankly, that is where the crux of this entire thing lies. And we are going to be talking about that. Coming back to Mr. Kachka, like I was just mentioning, that earlier there was a perception that this deal was unfair. And now, of course, the fresh one that has been signed finally is much more equitable. It's much more, it creates a 50-50 kind of an arrangement. But could you just tell me a few highlights for the benefit of the audiences to understand what really has changed from the previous version to this one that you finally signed last night?
It's really dialogue. It's the classics for international relations. So that when you have dialogue, when you explain nuances, when you explain the model, and you can understand that the interest that your partner has can be reflected in different manners. So it can be reflected one-sided. It can be reflected in like a mutual benefit manner. So this is exactly what we achieved. So that it was really a set of long and detailed discussions. So that's why I think that the question was to find proper model. So that's why I think that for the future it will be let's say a source of analysis for many international legal lawyers on this how it was done. But I think that it was clear that we clarified the core interest, and the core interest was not to somehow let's say punish Ukraine, so that to remove something negative. It was the interest to ensure that we move further to in our cooperation and develop our cooperation. And when we understood that this interest is shared between parties, then it actually changed the scene for discussions. So that and. Of course, they continue to be complex, but they went into very constructive dialogue. Yeah.
So, do you also believe that there would be a constructive way forward in terms of how, earlier Ukraine was supposed to compensate for all the aid that it had received from the United States through the revenues earned from this particular minerals deal? Do you think anything has changed there? Do you think it's become more equitable? Because these were the reasons what made it look very exploitative. I mean, that has also been a strong word which has been used by analysts all over the world, which is that it looked as if, America was. Arm twisting Ukraine to agree to a certain a deal which was more favorable to America. But finally, the final product looks pretty fair. So, do you think that those kind of things have changed? I mean, I'm just building on what you said. You've already answered my question, but for the benefit of the audiences, because in this part of the world, people have little understanding. So, whoever wants to come, Mr. Kachka or Mr. Halaychuk, whoever wants to come on that, but just a few
Yeah, so,
points.
yeah,
Yeah.
so just to comment on this, I think that what is important to understand in the rest of the world, yeah. So because I think that these examples actually lead to the general discussions whether we have profound changes in geopolitics and so on. I think that it is important to continue to understand what are the interests and what are the driving forces of position of your partner. And when you continue dialogue, you can understand that maybe there is something like mutually interested. So that's for both parties, and maybe we can build on something on this interest. So that's why I think that you don't need to only rely to the language, to the tone. Of course, it is important, but sometimes the very sober analysis of the mutual interest is important, and this is what happened here in this case. So that if we are talking like from the thing, how it happened, yeah. So that's why I think that this is important for everywhere. So in India, in Ukraine, and that we need to go into sober analysis, and we understand that what our interest actually resonate with the interest of the United States in terms of security, politics, economics, and so on. So that's why you can invent something. So this is also our approach. Yeah. So it's just like not only emotions, but very like sober and sometimes even critical analysis of what we can achieve. So it helps a lot, and I think that we don't need to follow only emotions, and especially not need to follow the reactions in social media and media, because sometimes they are maybe not biased, but they are like too emotional. Yeah. So and I think that we are talking about serious things and very complex things on strategic level. So that's why this sober dialogue and analysis of interests and the defining that if they are common helps a lot.
Right, right, right. No, I do certainly get your point. I mean, all of this is a result of basically a very, I would say, rational, thought through, well thought through decision making, which obviously is a work in progress, right? So, and that's what the Ukrainian side and the American sides have shown. Now, but very quickly, Vadim, if I come to you and say, and ask you this question, that the Trump administration, even earlier, had been calling it a kind of a de facto security guarantee. And the logic is simple, that if you have American businesses, American presence, American workers in Ukraine, invested in the minerals, so to say, Ukrainian minerals, it even though Ukraine is not getting the NATO's membership right now, but this could serve as a de facto security guarantee. How convinced are you as a country of this statement? Because obviously it is not something which is etched in stone, isn't it?
Well, I already mentioned the Budapest Memorandum and the memory of it and the effect of it on Ukrainians overall. We would want this sort of security arrangements to be as specific as possible. However, uh, the experts would tell you on international law that there's no really such thing as guarantees. Even if you read onto the NATO Article 5, Article 4 provisions, you could argue about the how strong the guarantees are. Nevertheless, the issue at hand is about the overall effect. Again, as I was mentioning, we working closely with our European partners, and we all followed the discussions in the recent weeks about the trade relationships and overall transatlantic cooperation and relationships. So for us, it's very important that this deal is being arranged and is coming through. Also from the point of view that we have both our partners, our important partners, the European Union and the United States, also closely cooperating here. We made it very clear that this agreement has to, of course, correspond to the demands of Ukrainian constitution and legislation in general, and there we're all okay. But it also has to take into account Ukraine's obligations to the European Union. Uh, for us, joining the European Union is the strategic immediate goal. We very much sure that if we were a member of the European Union, uh, Russia wouldn't have even dreamed of doing what they were doing to a country which is a member of that, although not security but economic club. So it is very important in terms of where you are economically, uh, on how you regard it on the security arrangements. Investments are protected not only by agreements but by understanding that you need to protect those investments. Therefore, Ukraine having a lot to offer in terms of investment opportunities is very eager to attract as many investments as possible from all around the world. But this specific issue of making it a European and transatlantic format for this cooperation, is and will continue to be very important for us. And I believe we're doing fairly well here.
Right. No, I mean, right, and the proof of the pudding lies in the eating somewhere. I mean, just hours after the minerals deal was signed, we saw that President Donald Trump, for the first time ever, coming to office in the second term, approved a 50 million sales worth of 50 millions of weapons and also some technological transfer to Ukraine. And this comes when just a few weeks before this development, he refused to even sell the Patriot air defenses to Ukraine. So suddenly there seems to be a big shift in how Donald Trump is looking at this entire question, isn't it? And do you think this 50 million, of course, it's a very small amount, but do you think this is a beginning? And how really should Ukraine look at it? Because it's not aid, right? These are sales. So your views, I mean, whoever wants to come, Vadim, if you want to come on it, or Mr. Kachka, whoever.
Well, my understanding is, I'll make a short comment and give it over to you, Taras. My understanding is that this is the procedure. The American procedure requires that these amounts, I don't know, 50 million or more, would have to be approved by the Congress. My understanding is so. This is the beginning of the process. And yes, it's definitely a very good news for us. We continue to receive American assistance from the previous batches which were approved, and that assistance is also critical to Ukraine, and it's been continuing. So here, this is definitely a very good political sign. This is definitely a good sign to American companies which have been providing manufacturing weapons, and let's be frank, looking forward to getting good deals with Ukraine. So this is a good signal to those American companies which were getting worried. I mean, we've seen that on the news, that these doubts, let's put it that way, in the administration have not only created worries here in Ukraine, but also back there in the United States, where companies who have been entering into these agreements and arrangements have been a bit disappointed. So now everybody's back on the same page, that we are continuing to implement the agreements that we have. So yes, we definitely looking forward to hear more as to what exactly is going to be further approved and further delivered under that batch of the 50 million.
Mr.
Taras,
Kachka,
over
would you
to
like to
you.
add? Yeah, Mr. Kachka, would you like to
Yeah.
add?
So, and I think that it will be a final comment from me. Unfortunately, I will need to skip, because we have like high level discussions. Maybe I will come talk to you later if needed. Yeah. So the idea is that definitely this is like something that we like, that what we bring to the fund will be invested in Ukraine, and then only profits will be distributed. So that's why what was important is that we detached these things, and this is really about investments, not about like some kind of things. So that's why I think that it will be like it is really like a solution that actually helped us to find things. And my apologies, but I need
No,
to
we
drop
totally
off.
understand you're doing something
Yeah.
very important there, and
Yeah, it's
you're right
like
in
you
the
are in the
middle of the
middle of
crossfire.
the
You
of
are
this.
in
That's
DC.
why I'm
Yes.
like always distracted. Thank
No,
you,
thank
Nathan.
you so much for the time, and we wish, of
Thank you.
course, you
And
the
I think that
longest.
Vadim will definitely help you
Yes,
with
we're
rest
not
of the
letting
question.
We'll
Vadim
do
go
our
Thank
anywhere.
you.
best.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Taras.
Bye.
Doing good
Bye.
work.
Thank
Good
you so
luck
much.
there.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
so much, Minister. It was a pleasure speaking to you. So Vadim, I mean, let me just take this further, right? So, but all this change, of course, I mean, the whole world has been rather worried about just how unstable Donald Trump has been in his first 100 days. I mean, India is also a victim of many tariff, I would say, wars that are impending. And right now there is a hold. But what I'm trying to say is that, the whole world seems to be reeling under the pressure of Donald Trump's extremely erratic behavior and decisions. And it's good to see that some semblance of continuity is returning in his policy, because for a long time we did not know what really is Donald Trump having in mind. Is he on Russia's side? Is he on Ukraine's side? Is he trying to be the mediator? Is he trying to bring the war to an end? But at least now we have some semblance of continuity, right? I mean, that we can take the conversation forward. But I think the Europeans have also played a major role here. I mean, right from the beginning, whether it's Keir Starmer from UK, Emmanuel Macron from France, or very recently Giorgia Meloni from Italy. All of these European leaders have gone to the US, taken the case of Ukraine, and finally we saw how it probably started to show results when recently all the Europeans, we saw a mini transatlantic meeting happening at the Pope's funeral in Rome, isn't it? Do you think that was also somewhere which was like symbolically changing the tide a little bit?
Well, Trump and other officials in Trump's administration made it very clear, even before they actually took office, that they are unhappy with some arrangements, especially the security arrangements, the situation, for example, with the expenditures, defense and security expenditures in Europe, and that they were going to do something about it.
Okay.
So, yeah, it wasn't, to be fair, it wasn't completely out of the blue when these news started coming in, and many in Europe were not ready for those. But of course, for us in Ukraine, it was pretty painful because of our situation. You know, any
Yes.
delay, even any doubts that the U.S. Is with Ukraine in
Hmm,
this war
hmm,
have hurt us,
hmm,
both in terms of some of the delays in some of the
hmm,
assistance deliveries, but also in in public perception
hmm,
and morale. Quite frankly, even in the front lines, people did get worried
yeah.
about the whole situation. So for us, it was very important that we return, as you put it, to some sort of continuity in the situation, because it has very big influence on public morale here in Ukraine. Yes, Europeans have played a major role in how this was developing. There were many delegations. There were big visits by heads of state, but there were also hundreds of smaller delegations, especially I know of dozens of smaller delegations consisting of members of parliament of
Hmm,
different countries, of
right.
including Ukrainians. We would get together with our German colleagues, with French, with the Brits, go there,
Hmm,
make contacts in the Congress, make contacts in the Senate, and simply sit down and answer questions, deliver the information, and try to persuade where we had to
hmm,
do different sort of lobby for us. So yes, the effect of that, the impact of the
hmm,
Europeans getting
hmm,
united and
hmm,
us being part of these discussions, part of these efforts, have
right.
played a major role on I want to say administration perception,
Hmm,
but definitely on the perception on the hills. Our delegations were meeting with some of those who had doubts, who have
hmm.
publicly voiced certain concerns about helping Ukraine, and we've seen that change. So that was very important for us.
Right. And just before I sort of move on to other questions and more important questions, just a little bit of a clarification. And I really wanted to ask this question to Mr. Kachka, but of course he had to leave. But if you can just help me understand. So earlier there was this apprehension that with this minerals deal going forward with the United States, it would leave Europeans out of any investment possibilities in Ukraine. Is that true, or does this particular deal also leave room for European investments into Ukraine?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, it is directly mentioned in the agreement
Okay.
that nothing which could go against Ukraine's obligations as a candidate country
Hmm,
for joining the EU,
hmm,
therefore, all the regulations that we now adopt here in Ukraine, they have to correspond to all European directives. But it's also in general. As a matter of fact, the Europeans are also quite happy to see the Americans staying in. We need we need Americans in. We
Yeah.
need, of course, the investments, but we also need technology and innovations, and it's also there in the deal that the parties will particularly work on bringing in new technologies, bringing in innovations, and making these developments, these joint enterprises on Ukrainian minerals according to the latest developments and technologies. So that only makes the Europeans happy. There's enough for everyone in terms of Ukraine's needs and in terms of the resources that Ukraine has. So it's not, of course, competition would have to be there, and the rules of the competition would be the European rules for competing, very open, very, very precise. Sometimes a little bit, even as many experts claim, a bit too, too thorough, too much detailed. But those are very, very clear rules, which in turn would help the Americans too. They would know exactly what it is that they're dealing with. They would know exactly what regulations would look like, because we are under obligation to implement pretty much, the European directives that are there, to implement them into the Ukrainian legislation. So that way, Ukraine would be becoming a pretty transparent economy and the country which is run according to the rules that are working in the European Union, which should be making American investors quite secure in terms of what to expect.
Well, that's my understanding too, because if the minerals deal is coming through in a way which can add value to both Ukraine and the US, ultimately this is going to pave way, further for Ukraine's accession into the EU. I mean, one, it's very very clear. I mean, as it goes forward. But I have to bring in the question of Russia, because it is safe to infer now that this probably is a precursor to relatively more permanent ceasefire in the future. But what are your thoughts on that? Because the previous two attempts made by the Donald Trump administration for bringing a ceasefire have not really worked. They've broken down. Do you see any change in that? And what is your view?
Well, the problem is that we do not trust Russia, because time and again they've demonstrated that you cannot trust Russia. We were, of course, very hopeful, and we watched very careful how the discussions developed between American negotiating team and the Russian negotiating team. And although some of the information that we were getting back, we weren't very happy with, because quite frankly we had seen and heard a bit too many Russian narratives coming through, which made us a bit nervous. We do, however, understand that in order to conduct fruitful negotiations, you need to build some trust between the parties. So this is a very complicated process that we were watching very closely, but were quite frankly skeptical about. Again, because we simply don't trust the Russians. And unfortunately, the 30-day ceasefire to which Ukraine agreed unconditionally, President Zelensky came out and said, "Of course, yeah, we always we always going to support the ceasefire." Well, it didn't hold. I mean, not a single day.
Yeah.
There were maybe few days without Russia hitting any major targets in the energy infrastructure, but that didn't last, and right away they resumed the attack, even made them even more vicious, as we had seen with them deliberately attacking again big cities, and killing a lot of Ukrainian civilians. Therefore, we are very hopeful, and we are very grateful, of course. We see how much effort, how much time Trump's administration is investing in it. All these visits, all these meetings, all these discussions. I mean, they require a lot of time. They require a lot of energy. So we still hopeful that they're gonna produce some little more than what they have already produced, which is very moderate
Yeah.
result. But so far, we don't see Putin and well, Kremlin in general uh, willing to cooperate all that much. So far, the discussion is evolving around the issues that Russia is very much interested in. For example, the sanctions.
Hmm.
Obviously, sanctions do work. Sanctions do hurt. And Moscow is demanding lifting sanctions before they move on to agreeing to something else. And it's good that so far we see administration being pretty careful about making any promises to Russians on that front, and European Union being very clear that sanctions were imposed uh, due to Russian aggression, due to this war, and they can be lifted only when the aggression is stopped, only when Russia is really cooperating and the ceasefire is in place. So
Right.
this is what we now are hopeful for, that we all will coordinate our position and will hold strong.
Okay.
Russia is gonna get something in return for something, not
Yeah.
just empty promises like the one that they will keep the ceasefire.
Yeah. So yes, and that brings me to the question of this quid pro quo. It is getting clearer. I mean, from the Trump administration as well as from many other quarters, that perhaps Ukraine, the question of Crimea, the question of annexed territories. I just have a simple question for you because you need not elaborate on what is Ukraine stand, but a simple question: would Ukraine ever agree to legal control of Crimea by Russia or the annexed territories?
No, it's impossible legally. Ukrainian constitution uh, changes to the borders of Ukraine can only be done through a referendum.
Okay.
Uh, but referendum on the issues of seizing any land is prohibited directly in the Constitution. So,
Okay.
in order for the legal process to even get started, you need major changes in the Constitution, which will require a referendum on those changes.
Right.
So, in a very unlikely scenario, where we get to the public opinion towards let's consider it, then the
Mm-hmm.
process itself would be so complicated and cumbersome and so long because the referendum, then the changes will have to be drafted and voted in the Ukrainian parliament. Then they
Mm-hmm.
would have to go to constitutional court, get the constitutional court opinion, return to Ukrainian parliament, voted on it again, so on and so forth. So it's something that will require years.
Okay.
And politically, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, no one in Ukraine politically now
Mm-hmm.
would even think of coming out and saying, "Hey, uh, I think we need to give Crimea to Russia." You would be dead politically, and maybe not just politically. Situation in the country is obviously totally against any concessions to the Russians in terms of recognizing that they're legal, that they are holding control over the annexed territories legally, and that would break the existing international order completely.
Okay.
That would require changes to the UN Charter,
Mm-hmm.
where this issue of the territories cannot be taken by force, and the
Mm-hmm.
many resolutions that UN had on Crimea, calling the annexation illegal and
Mm-hmm.
demanding Russia to stop doing that. So the shift which needs to be done, it's not just about Ukraine. It's about international law as a whole. It's about the
Mm-hmm.
international order.
Right.
And the consequences, if we do go that way, just imagine the consequences. All these conflicts all around the world, all the territories, and who controls what. So so far, I see no possibility, no realistic way of
Okay.
actually making it happen that Ukraine could go that way. But also the international community.
Okay.
I just can't see what could be done in order for that to happen. So the issue that we are considering, the issue that Ukraine has made it clear that we accept the reality in the sense that we have those territories that we don't have control over, and Russia
Okay.
does have the
Okay.
control over those territories, and international law does have provisions which regulate that situation.
Okay.
The
All right.
European Court for Human Rights have considered many cases
Right.
about
Yeah.
different claims towards Russia, where this particular issue that Russia, as an occupying power, has control over the territories and has certain obligations
Okay.
as they control those territories. So within that framework of the international law, yes, we can work.
Okay, all right. No, thanks for elaborating on that, because these are things which are not, often understood well enough, because the parliamentary process that you elaborated upon, etc., seems to be something which is not really researched upon in these our parts of the world. Now, very quickly before I let you go, my last question to you is that now with the minerals deal signed, and there seems to be, like what we were just discussing, some continuity emerging from Donald Trump's administration on the Russia-Ukraine war, and particularly their position on Ukraine. Very soon, there will be meaningful conversations on the reconstruction of Ukraine as well. And I just have a simple question for you there, is that you're also a member of the Ukraine-India Friendship Group at the Rada, which is the Ukrainian parliament. What role do you see of India? What role can India play as an actor for reconstruction of Ukraine? And if so, what do you expect from the Indian side? I mean, you can obviously use this platform to convey, if you want to convey anything to the Indian leadership.
Well, we are looking forward to India's active participation in the reconstruction project. I have visited India on several occasions and had very interesting meetings with different Indian businesses who have proposed very innovative decisions in a lot of spheres. Uh,
Hmm.
Indian businesses are very active in Ukraine. One of
Yes.
the major articles for Ukrainian experts and Ukrainian success story is Ukrainian metallurgical service sector. And here we already have a Indian businessman owning one of the biggest enterprises in Ukraine in general, and one of the leader in Ukrainian metallurgical service, the Arcelor Metals. India also has very interesting, innovative technologies in what we were discussing in developing different mineral resources.
Yeah.
And India has a lot of workforce. We're already working with India on these issues. I know of at least several large groups of Indians who have accepted job proposals and already working in
Okay.
Ukraine. There's a huge demand for labor in Ukrainian agriculture, which is also one of the major uh, assets of Ukraine, and not just Ukraine. So the demand for labor force in Ukrainian agriculture is in hundreds of thousands of jobs, and India has very progressive, very high technological companies in the agricultural sector. And we're
Right.
already getting some proposals which are very interesting in terms of how that sector could be developed. So this strategic partnership that we do have with India that we were discussing, and these contacts, these businesses that are already working in Ukraine or considering very closely the possibility to come to Ukraine, is something that we rely on already, on India becoming more and more interested, more and more
Okay.
Indians coming to Ukraine, more and
Okay.
more businesses joining their efforts and building joint enterprises. This
Right.
is definitely the the view that we have of the reconstruction of Ukraine. It's our joint project with the Europeans, with Americans, with all the friendly countries from all around the world who are willing to come here, invest, and build the future highly technological and very beautiful Ukraine.
Yes, of course. I mean, I think we all have a stake in the stability of Ukraine. Of course, this war has been impacting several regions in the world in several ways, and this is, of course, as you know, that I've been studying for the last 3 years as well. But on that note, I have to thank you, Mr. Vadym Halaychuk, and of course, Mr. Kachka, who was earlier with us, for taking the time out at such a crucial moment in your country's destiny as it tries to bring a just and peaceful end to this war. And from here in India, we only wish that peace could return to Ukraine in a meaningful manner. And thank you once again for joining me on the Worldview with Swasti.
Swasti, the pleasure is all mine, and I thank you for, again, keeping Ukraine in focus and informing Indian people about the events here on the ground. Always happy to join in. Thank you.
Thank you.